Hello and welcome to Friday's Granada Reports.
Hello there. On the programme this evening,
a coroner's critical conclusion. Marina's death was caused by neglect and gross failures by Royal Preston Hospital. She'd been admitted after a severe asthma attack, but medical teams missed 5 chances to save her.
her sister, who took Marina to hospital, still struggling to come to terms with her loss.
I handed over my sister who was vulnerable to them, and they handed her back and she had died. And I never get over it.
We'll hear how the coroner, 2 years after Marina's death, is still not convinced all the lessons from her death have been learned.
Also on the programme tonight, a victim of stalking, Bob says the police still don't take it seriously enough. We speak to the force with the only specialist stalking unit in our region.
Win or bust? The 4 North West sides seeking grand final glory in the Super League playoffs.
Just an illusion. You'll be amazed at what you think you're seeing at the region's newest museum.
And after a very wet couple of days here in the northwest, some better news weather-wise as we head into this weekend. I'll have all the details later on in the programme.
Well, first tonight, a coroner's ruled neglect and gross failure by medical staff caused the death of a disabled woman who spent 39 hours in a chair at the Royal Preston Hospital following an asthma attack.
The inquest into the death of Marina Young heard there were 5 missed opportunities to save her life. In addition to asthma, Marina, who was 46, had spina bifida and other conditions, but lived a full and independent life.
But the coroner found staff repeatedly failed to give her the right medical care and failed to step up her treatment when she obviously wasn't responding. He also found there had been little change at Royal Preston following Marina's death and said he'd be writing to the medical director to express his concerns.
Our correspondent Victoria Grimes spoke to Marina's sister.
She was everything to us, absolutely everything. For 4'11", she leaves a big hole, and she was supposed to be with me and raising my grandchildren with me, and that's never going to happen.
When Michelle took Marina to Royal Preston Hospital, she thought she'd be in safe hands. A former nurse herself, she knew her sister was having an asthma attack and needed medical help. Already vulnerable with spina bifida and continence needs after a bladder transplant, even after Marina's condition worsened, the appropriate care was never given.
I know how I took her to hospital, and I know how I received her back. And I received her back in a room, fully clothed, saturated in urine, in cardiac arrest, with no answers whatsoever.
Today, in an inquest into Marina's death, those answers came. The coroner describing parts of Marina's care as inadequate. He identified 5 missed opportunities to refer her to senior clinicians. He said her death was preventable and was caused by neglect, characterised both by a gross failure to provide appropriate assessment and care and an inadequate escalation of her management to specialist physicians or ITU. He said he was so concerned by what he'd heard, he'd be issuing a prevention of future deaths report.
Do you feel that Marina was treated with care and compassion?
No, whatsoever. And that has been really fetched to light today in the inquest, that there was no care and compassion given to my sister whatsoever. In my eyes and everything I've seen today, is she was sat in a chair for 39 hours, fighting for breath until she had a cardiac arrest and died. And on the other side of it, her spina bifida needs and the bladder transplant she had, and she clinically needed to do things every 3 hours, wasn't even looked at, addressed or even considered. And we should never do that with anybody.
Despite her own health struggles, Marina had dedicated herself to caring for her father who had cancer. He died just 2 months after she did.
It destroyed him. It completely and utterly destroyed him. And I saw the light go out in my dad's eyes after she died. And my dad never got an apology about his daughter, ever. But I won't stop fighting for what the NHS does stand for, and it does have core values of care and compassion. But we need to change it. We do need to change it, and I do want change to happen.
Marina's family now plan to take legal action against the hospital trust. They know it won't bring her back, but they don't want anyone else to be treated the way she was. Victoria Grimes, ITV News, Preston.
Well, a Lancashire Teaching Hospital spokesperson said in a statement the Trust would like to offer its sincere condolences to the family and friends of Marina Young and apologise for the failings identified in our own investigation and the coroner's report. We welcome the independent scrutiny of the coroner and are committed to the further actions and learning identified in the inquest.
Next, a new report by the police watchdog says forces have to make significant changes to improve the way officers deal with stalking investigations. The Independent Office for Police Conduct says the crimes are still not taken seriously enough.
A special unit in the Cheshire Constabulary has been trying to change that. In it, police, mental health services and people who represent the victims whose lives are blighted by stalkers all work together.
Our correspondent Andy Bonner has spoken to a man who's been stalked and the team trying to crack down on offenders.
I blocked her phone, she just got new SIM cards.
Bob knows how stalking can wreck lives.
All social media was blocked as well, and then she found out where I lived.
A former student targeted the driving instructor after her lessons ended.
And it was relentless. This was years ago now, and I'm always on my guard. It never goes away.
He believes police don't take stalking seriously.
Close friend who's in a police force, he asked me what the police were doing. I told them they're not doing much, they're doing very little, and he actually said no, they won't, because we don't take it seriously. It was shocking to hear that.
Today, a police watchdog confirmed Bob's fears. It said officers are failing to protect stalking victims in too many cases.
The police response to stalking has not been good enough. Victims have been let down. They've not been necessarily believed. They've not been listened to, and investigations have not been consistently good enough.
OK, we're through here.
In Cheshire, they're trying to buck the trend. This is the Harm Reduction Unit, where services work in the same office to provide a better response.
You might think, well, of course it's common sense, health professionals, police working together to tackle stalking, but we forget how unusual it is. We have health professionals here to help us understand why people are doing what they're doing so that we can stand a better chance of stopping it.
These days, it's not just about someone following you in the street. Police now spend a lot of their time investigating cyber-enabled stalking.
Does it make a difference to your job, being able to work in this environment with the health professionals?
Our skill sets inside the business are very, very different. We're very good at, and how we are trained to take statements, to gather evidence and stuff. We're not trained or qualified in sort of understanding how the mind works. So it's really useful to be able just to quickly sit down with them, talk through a case, and then through that you can identify things.
OK, so there was a lot of information there.
This regular consultation clinic helps probation staff with their understanding and communication, and services share information to tailor their response for a better outcome.
We see sort of first-hand the positive influence that we can have.
How do you feel about the fact that large parts of the rest of the country don't operate like this, don't have this sort of common sense approach?
It's a surprise, really, to some degree, because I can see how well it works here.
So when a case comes in, we can discuss the risks, the response, so fast. You can see how it makes so much sense to have all the right people in one place working towards a common goal. This should be the norm.
Other forces are now wanting to copy this approach, but to those who've been affected by stalking, things can't improve quickly enough. Andy Bonner, ITV News, Winsford.
This evening's other news now, and a man from Birkdale who threw bricks at officers, climbed on top of a police carrier and stole a riot shield during the recent disorder in Southport has been jailed for 3 years. 20-year-old Joseph Corey was sentenced today at Liverpool Crown Court after pleading guilty to violent disorder.
The fiancé of a pregnant woman killed by a speeding driver on the M66 in Greater Manchester has taken part in a 200-mile charity walk. Frankie Jules Hoff and her unborn daughter Neve died after their car was hit on the hard shoulder near Bury in May last year. The man responsible was jailed for 12 years. Calvin Buckley joined forces with other grieving families to campaign for tougher action on road crime.
Neve's birthday would be in 2 weeks, or October the 13th. It's really sad and tragic, but we're trying to make a difference.
Passengers in the region are being urged to plan ahead as rail timetables for the festive period go live this weekend. Network Rail say there'll be engineering work on the West Coast Main Line starting just before Christmas and lasting until the start of the new year. It'll include upgrades affecting services through Crewe and Stockport.
The price of crossing the historic Warburton Toll Bridge near Warrington is to go up for the first time in more than a century and a half. It has cost 12 pence to cross the link between the villages of Warburton and Rixton since 1863, but now users face a 740% increase to £1. A multi-million-pound upgrade to the crossing will begin next month. £1 might not seem like a lot of money, but it does certainly all add up.
I've actually been there and paid the 12 pence, and it felt a bit weird, I must admit.
It's going to be painful now. You're going to be paying £1. Lots still coming up for free on tonight's programme.
I'm very lucky to have this second chance, and obviously internally grateful to my donor and their family, because without them I wouldn't be able to do anything.
Healthy and happy, Lucy owes her life to a stranger and says more of us need to join the organ donor register.
And after a really wet couple of days here in the northwest, some better news if you're hoping to get out for a bit of an autumnal walk this weekend. I'll have all the weather details in just a few minutes.
Now for a quick look at the stories making the headlines. The ITV News at 6:30 with Charlie.
Coming up, the seismic loss of a stage and screen icon. We remember the life and legacy of Dame Maggie Smith, who's died at the age of 89. Also tonight, the youngest knife killers ever convicted in the UK for the murder of teenager Sean Sisahai in a random machete attack. And chaos on the roads and railways after heavy rain and flooding across England and Wales. So join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Next, it is 30 years since the creation of something that saved more than 100,000 lives in the country and more than 10,000 in the northwest, since it was created 3 decades ago.
Yes, we're talking about the organ donor register, which allows you to signal if you wish to become an organ donor in the event of your death.
Well, the law was changed 4 years ago so that everyone is now deemed to consent to become an organ donor unless they decide to opt out.
But we are all still being asked to sign the register. Our reporter Anna Yosef went to meet Lucy from Salford, who is living, breathing proof that organ donors save lives.
Lucy's always led a healthy lifestyle, exercising regularly and eating the right things. She says she owes it to the stranger who saved her life. When Lucy was 2, she had a heart transplant.
I vaguely remember either being asleep or resting in my parents' bed and then being woken up because obviously the ambulance had arrived. I didn't want to get in it. And then after that, I thankfully don't remember anything. I think it's my poor parents who will remember everything, sadly.
3 decades on, Lucy says she never takes her health or life for granted.
The transplant really gave you a second chance at life. You've really made the most of it as well, haven't you?
Yes, I like to think so. I'm obviously very aware that I'm very lucky to have this second chance, and obviously internally grateful to my donor and their family, because without them I wouldn't be able to do anything. I wouldn't be alive here speaking to you today. So yeah, so I've done all sorts, done lots of different jobs. I'm now studying at university. I've taken part in the British and World Transplant Games. I've just done a month doing a podcasting course in Canada. So I'm very much like, if I'm well enough to do it, I am doing it.
The NHS Organ Donor Register was set up 30 years ago. Since then, it's saved almost 11,000 lives in the northwest. But more than 850 patients in the region are still waiting for a transplant. And the waiting list in the UK is higher than ever before.
We know from research that when we approach a family
of a person who signed the register, 9 out of 10 of those families will actually support that decision. And when they haven't signed the register, that figure is much, much lower. So what we want is for people to make a positive choice, to sign the register, to tell us what they want to do so we can help support their decision at the end of their life.
Lucy's doing a performing arts degree and wants to be an actor. She's grateful she's getting the chance to chase her dreams. Anna Yosef, ITV News.
All power to Lucy.
Yeah.
This Sunday, Rivington Pike will light up pink to mark the end of Organ Donation Week.
Yeah, we've both done it, haven't we, Anne? Just go to our website for more information about registering your decision on becoming an organ donor. Just head to itvnews.com/Granada for all the details. OK, on to sport now. And the news that Manchester City fans feared has been confirmed. Hi, Chris, tell us more.
Yes, he is such a crucial player for them. A huge blow for Manchester City. Their Spanish midfielder Rodri will not play again this season after having knee surgery. He ruptured his anterior cruciate ligament during last week's draw with Arsenal. Today, Pep Guardiola confirmed he has had an operation and is out for at least 9 months.
When you have an ACL injury 9 months, year after, you have problems, muscular problems for sure. So that's why it's longer. So I think Rodri will become his best after not just 8-9 months, but it's what it is. As a club, we have a magnificent players, and we will find a solution, and we will see what happens.
Well, meanwhile, City will take on defending champions Barcelona in the group stage of the Women's Champions League. They booked their place with a comfortable 3-0 win over Paris FC last night. That's 8-0 on aggregate. They'll also face Austrian sides St Pölten and Hammarby from Sweden in the group stage, which starts next month. Well, now to a team with ambitions to join Manchester City in the Women's Super League. Blackburn Rovers players have been training the next generation of girls footballers at the Redeemer Primary School just up the road from Ewood Park, where on Sunday they face Championship leaders Charlton. In fact, Ewood will host every one of their home matches in the league this season, and there'll be a few new fans to fill it thanks to sessions like these all over Blackburn.
It's really good to see as well that there's a full girls session on here, because for a long time I was the only girl in a boys team, probably for like 4 or 5 years until I joined to a girls team. So yeah, it's really good to see the amount of girls that are now playing football.
I've loved it today. This is probably my first experience I've got to play with an actual team, so I've just really loved it. I've learned some new skills and I've just enjoyed every single bit of it.
There's been a great atmosphere around playing all our games at Ewood. Hopefully a bigger fan base can come and watch, and also a lot of other teams are doing the same, so it's great to be playing in big stadiums every weekend.
Getting that winning feeling. FOW, sponsors of the Granada Sport Report.
Rugby League now, and Wigan's England international Mike Cooper has announced his retirement from the sport. He's hung up his boots on medical advice after suffering a concussion this summer. Wigan, meanwhile, are enjoying a rest week after finishing the regular season top of the Super League table. But as David Chisnall reports, there are still 4 North West teams in playoff action as the race to Old Trafford and that grand final begins.
Here we go! Here we go indeed, as the Super League season enters the playoffs. It's win or bust from here on in, starting tonight, where Salford Red Devils host Lee Leopards in front of a record home crowd.
Look forward to these knockout games. It's the reason you play the game, and for these big ones. Hopefully be a big crowd at Salford on Friday, and a good atmosphere, and yeah, let's see what we can do.
Well, Lee have enjoyed recent success winning the Challenge Cup last year. A win tonight in their playoff eliminator would be another important milestone for the club and move them closer to a grand final than they've ever been before.
At this time of year, as a former player myself, it's the only time where I wish I was still playing. But I think collectively as a group and at our club, the fans, the club, all the players are excited about it. We've got a tough job on Friday night to go to Salford and play them in the final there. And we're excited about that, you know.
Matty Ashton is one of 3 Warrington Wolves players to be named in this season's Dream Team. After individual honours, he's now targeting collective glory.
We know we've got a real chance to create history. That's what it's all about. I think it's 69 years since the last time Warrior have won it, so we know that. The club knows that, but it's down to us to go out and do it now. The talking's done. It's just time for action, and it all starts this weekend.
St Helens stand in Warrington's way. A 6th place finish in the Super League marks a disappointing season so far, but the Saints do go marching on.
No one's ever gone on and won it from 6th. So in one respect that can be seen as, well, it's daunting because no one's ever done it, but in some respects it's also a different challenge for us, isn't it? It'd be great to be the first team to be able to go and do that. But before we can start talking about grand finals, we've got to go to Warrington and win at the weekend.
A place in next week's playoff semi-finals with Wigan Warriors and Hull KR is the prize at stake for our teams as they do all they can to take a step closer to the ultimate goal of lifting the Super League trophy. David Chisnell, ITV News.
Yes, all 5 Northwest teams in the playoffs this year. Surely that trophy is staying on this side of the Pennines this year.
It's part of rugby league law, so it's got to happen.
Absolutely fantastic. Hull KR will put up a great fight. I'm sure that people from Yorkshire will be backing them. But surely 5 of the 6 teams from the Northwest. It's got to be ours, hasn't it?
Too right. Thanks, Chris. Now, here on Granada Reports, we pride ourselves on bringing you the truth. What you see is what you get. Well, tonight might have to be a bit of an exception.
Yeah, because a new museum attraction in Manchester is making all of us question what we see. It's the Museum of Illusions, where up can mean down and visitors can walk on the ceiling. Or can they?
Our reporter Jamal Williams-Thomas went to have a look, and just a warning, you might not believe your eyes.
On a street in the centre of Manchester lies a world of pure imagination and illusion. The Museum of Illusions has opened its first UK location, and it's right here in the Northwest.
Well, every location was on the table when deciding where to bring the Museum of Illusions. But when we were looking at, where does everything start? Where do all the great movements start? Everything starts in Manchester, and that's why we picked the place.
The attraction boasts over 65 illusions to keep your brain spinning, all researched and carefully crafted.
We have a full R&D team who works in Croatia, where our headquarters is, in the city of Zagreb. So they are the ones who come up with all the illusions and produce them and present them. So we are constantly developing new illusions. So you guys now have a chance to explore some of the illusions that have been never presented before to an audience in any other city.
And although it's all fun and games, there's a learning element as well, also known as edutainment.
You can bring the school group here and they can kind of do part of their curriculum inside Museum of Illusions, learn about physics, learn about perception, how the brain works, how vision works. So it's really, you can go as deep as you want.
The Museum of Illusions has opened 50 museums across 25 countries since 2015. This is the 51st and is the second largest in Europe after Copenhagen. And today, the first batch of visitors had their mind blown.
We're at a tunnel where you look like straight, but feels like that.
I think it's really good, really interactive and that, really brilliant. Yeah. Went into the Ames room. It makes me look giant, makes my girlfriend look small, and it's really good. It's really good.
Oh, it's so good. We were in the part where it's one person looks tiny and one person looks massive. It was so funny.
Well, my favourite illusion is the dodecahedron. You can look into infinity and never see the end. But of course, we want to present the wonderful Manchester-led exhibits as well, like our reversed tram, an incredible homage to the Metro.
So you can twist your melon on the Metrolink, but be under no illusion. There's more than meets the eye. Jamal Williams-Thomas, ITV News, Manchester.
It's just an illusion.
That did look a lot of fun, but I must say I was feeling a little bit unsettled watching that.
My eyes were going round and round and round like Tom and Jerry.
Finally, in a water-based mammal news, we've got something to really put a smile on your face this Friday.
Yes, who doesn't love dolphins? Well, a huge pod of them have been spotted off the coast of the Isle of Man.
And here they are. An estimated 300 short-beaked common dolphins were filmed near the point of Ayr off the northern tip of the island.
Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch say the algal bloom in the Irish Sea, which provides rich food for marine creatures, means more sightings are likely. Hurrah!
Yeah, there's nothing like a bit of algal bloom, whatever that is.
For a Friday.
Here's Joe.
Have you burnt tea again?
I'm scraping the cooled oil into the bin, not the sink.
Can we eat outside? It's nice.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Thank you. A very good evening to you. After a wet 48 hours for our part of the world, some drier, much needed settled conditions heading into this weekend. It is feeling chilly with a cold night to come tonight. Showers will feed in across the northwest over the next couple of days, and unfortunately Sunday into Monday another rain band will be moving into the north of England, potentially bringing further very heavy rainfall and localised flooding. In the meantime, a lull thanks to a little ridge of high pressure giving us a fairly decent couple of days. There will be showers around, but sunshine in the mix as well. This is the low pressure system though, rearing its ugly head for Sunday night and into Monday. We'll keep you posted on any other further warnings that will be put in place before the end of the weekend. Back to this evening, we have a feed of showers along Irish sea coasts, moving in across most places as we head through this evening. However, it will turn clear and dry and cold inland, with temperatures hovering around 2 or 3 degrees in the towns, and rurally there'll be a grass and air frost down to freezing. A few freezing fog patches before dawn, and mostly dry conditions as well as we wake up tomorrow morning. On to tomorrow. The sun is up at 7:08 and it sets at 6:53 tomorrow evening. It's likely tomorrow will be cold and bright to start with. We'll see sunshine amounts really doing well through the morning, but cloud builds a little from the west during the afternoon. And by the end of the day, a few showers are filtering across the Irish Sea and moving inland later on. So perhaps a slightly more cloudy and damp end to the day, but not doing too badly before that. And temperatures on paper are similar to today, but winds are westerly, so it won't feel as cold tomorrow afternoon. Bye-bye.
It's a little bit burnt.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Did you like how I said algal bloom like I knew what I was talking about?
First time round, anyway.
Thanks
for watching. I'll see you later.
Algal bloom.